June 2nd, 2026, 9:14 a.m. Imagine being the best player your franchise has ever seen. 9 seasons, 125.5 career sacks, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, 7 Pro Bowls, and last year, an NFL record, 23 sacks in a single season. A number no one in the history of this league had ever touched. You stayed loyal when everyone told you to leave. You signed the extension, you said all the right things, you called Cleveland home, and then, on a Monday morning in June, your team picked up the phone and traded you anyway. That's not a hypothetical. That is exactly what happened to Myles Garrett 2 days ago. In Cleveland, a city that has had its heart broken by this sport more times than it deserves, is sitting in the rubble right now, trying to figure out what comes next. Here's the full story. Myles Lorenz Garrett was born on December 29, 1995 in Arlington, Texas, Cowboys country. He grew up watching Dallas, actually begged Jerry Jones on video to trade for him before the 2017 draft, so his hometown team could pick him. Cowboys fans still bring that clip up whenever they need something to be sad about. At Martin High School in Arlington, he was a force of nature, 19.5 sacks as a senior, the top-ranked defensive prospect in the entire country. Texas A&M came calling, and at college, Garrett became one of the most dominant pass rushers the sport had ever seen at that level. 11 sacks as a freshman alone, unanimous All-American in his final year. By 2017, the NFL scouts were unanimous. Every ranking, every metric, every analyst. Myles Garrett was the best prospect in the draft, maybe one of the best in a generation. On April 27, 2017, the Cleveland Browns selected him first overall. Now here's something worth understanding about what that meant for Cleveland. The Browns hadn't had a first overall pick since 2000. They hadn't been to the playoffs since 2002. They were in the middle of one of the most painful rebuilds in NFL history, famously going 0-16 that very same 2017 season, but they had Garrett, and from day one, he was different. Rookie year, 7.5 sacks, despite missing 6 games with an ankle injury. Year 2, 13.5. Year 3, 10 games before COVID ended the season early. In 2020, a first-team All-Pro. In 2021, another. In 2023, his first Defensive Player of the Year award, undisputed. And through all of it, through every losing season, every quarterback controversy, every front office reshuffling, Garrett stayed, quietly, professionally, dominantly. He painted murals on Cleveland buildings. He worked with community organizations. He became genuinely the face of that franchise. So when he requested a trade before the 2025 season, frustrated by the losing, by the culture, by a team that couldn't build anything around him, the Browns did something remarkable. They looked Myles Garrett in the eye, gave him the richest contract ever handed to a non-quarterback in NFL history. 4 years, $160 million, $123 million guaranteed, and said, "You're a career Brown. We are not trading you." He signed it. He stayed. And then, 12 months later, they traded him anyway. Here's where this story stops being just a sports trade and starts being something more uncomfortable. As recently as late March of this year, Browns general manager Andrew Berry stood at a podium during NFL league meetings and said, on the record, "Myles is a career Brown. He is one of the faces of our organization. I think we've been very clear, both past and present, in terms of our goals. Career Brown." His words, public, on the record. Behind closed doors, the Rams had already been in talks with Cleveland for over a month. Here's how it actually went down. Back in February of this year, Garrett had quietly requested a trade again, still frustrated with where the franchise was heading. The Browns quietly restructured his contract in March, shifting his option bonus payments from March to just before the regular season. Publicly, they said it was routine, and when reporters asked if it opened a path to a trade, they denied it completely. But that contract tweak was the key. By waiting until after June 1st to finalize the deal, the Browns could split Garrett's $41 million dead cap hit across 2 seasons, rather than absorbing the entire hit in 2026. The restructure wasn't routine, it was preparation. Meanwhile, Los Angeles Rams GM Les Snead had been pushing hard. He wanted Garrett badly enough to include Jared Verse, a 25-year-old edge rusher, two-time Pro Bowler, and arguably the Rams' best young defensive player, as part of the return package. Snead revealed that his biggest fear during the negotiations wasn't the compensation. It was that after all those weeks of discussions, Garrett would simply say no. Because here's the part that makes this trade unlike almost anything else in NFL history. Myles Garrett had a no-trade clause in his contract, making him one of only 8 current NFL players with that protection, and the only non-quarterback on that list. Cleveland could not send him anywhere he didn't approve. They needed his signature on the deal. So after the Browns and Rams agreed on the compensation, Jared Verse, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second-rounder, a 2029 third-rounder, Garrett went through a period of deliberation and self-reflection before ultimately deciding to waive his clause and approve the move to Los Angeles. He waived it only for this specific trade, and crucially, kept the no-trade clause intact in his new Rams contract, meaning he retains that same power in Los Angeles. Why did he say yes? He didn't hide it. At his introductory Rams press conference, Garrett said, "Since the very beginning, it's always been about winning. What does it realistically look like to be a winner now, and to have an opportunity to do that immediately?" That was an opportunity that was just too difficult to pass up. In his farewell message to Cleveland, raw, simple, heartfelt, he posted on social media, "The city shaped me and made me tougher. Loving you is easy. Leaving you is the hard part." Cleveland fans read that and felt every word. Because the truth embedded in it was painful. Garrett didn't leave because he wanted to. He left because the franchise gave him a reason to. Let's put what Cleveland just gave away into full context, because numbers matter here. Myles Garrett finishes his Browns career with 125.5 sacks, the all-time franchise record, along with 412 tackles, 5 first-team All-Pro selections, 7 Pro Bowls, and 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. In 2025 alone, he set the NFL single-season sack record with 23 and added 33 tackles for loss, the second highest total in modern league history behind J.J. Watt's 39 in 2012. This was not a player who had declined. This was not a cap casualty. This was not a veteran past his prime being moved for financial relief. It's fair to say Myles Garrett may have been the best player in all of football in 2025, regardless of position, and the Browns just traded him. So what does Cleveland actually get in return? Jared Verse, 25 years old, legitimate NFL starter, 12 sacks over the last 2 seasons. He is a real player, a good player, but he is not Myles Garrett, not even close. The draft picks, a first rounder in 2027, a second in 2028, a third in 2029, are valuable for a team with enormous holes on the roster. The Browns desperately need to rebuild. They still have no reliable quarterback. Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders are competing for a starting job, with Watson carrying a $230 million guaranteed albatross and Sanders still trying to prove he belongs. The Browns spent this offseason overhauling their offensive line and drafting receivers, but the significant question marks at quarterback remain completely unresolved. Trading Garrett doesn't fix any of that. It just strips away the one thing that made watching this team bearable. For the Rams, the math is the opposite. With Super Bowl LXI set to be played at SoFi Stadium, their own home field, the Rams are going all in. Trading for Garrett mirrors what they did in 2021 when they acquired Matthew Stafford and went on to win the championship. Adding the reigning Defensive Player of the Year to an already talented roster on their home turf in a Super Bowl year? That's not bold, that's a blueprint. And Aaron Donald, the greatest Rams defender of all time, weighed in simply, "Get that ring, Myles." Here's the final truth. The Cleveland Browns made a rational business decision. They got legitimate value, a young edge rusher, future first-round capital, and a manageable cap structure. On a spreadsheet, it makes sense, but this franchise has been making rational decisions for 30 years. and they still haven't won anything. Myles Garrett spent 9 seasons being the only reason to watch Browns football. He stayed when everyone told him to go. He signed the extension when he had every right to demand a trade. He called Cleveland home, genuinely, not just for the press conference. And now he's gone, to a team with a shot to win it all, in a stadium that hosts the Super Bowl this February. Cleveland is left holding draft picks, a quarterback controversy, and the memory of the best player they've had in a generation. The Browns gave Cleveland everything. Cleveland's front office couldn't give him one thing in return: a reason to stay. That is the Myles Garrett trade. And if the Rams win the Super Bowl in February at SoFi Stadium with Garrett leading their defense, this will go down as one of the most painful moments in Cleveland Browns history. And that is saying something. Drop a comment. Do you think Cleveland made the right move? Or did they just hand the Rams a championship? Subscribe if you're new. We cover the biggest stories in the NFL every week right here.